Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on The Pendulum. The Pendulum is the weekly political program on Lagos television. I am Ajibola Ojeshola, and today on the program, we have so many things to discuss regarding the 2027 general elections. Like you all know, Mr. President recently appended his signature to the amended electoral bill, and of course, that has become a law in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But then, there are different kind of reactions as regards the manner and attitude in which this law was signed into law by Mr. President, as well as those dramas that we witnessed on the floor of the two chambers of the National Assembly. We have somebody who should know when it comes to election and the transparency nature of the election in this country joining us this afternoon on the program. But before I introduce my guest, we'll quickly take a short break to bring you a summary of political development in the country. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying tuned. You're still watching The Pendulum, our weekly political program on Lagos television. I did say earlier that we'll be looking at the recent electoral amendment bill signed into law by Mr. President and the implication of this law as regards our preparation for the 2027 general elections. We have somebody joining us on the program this afternoon. Those who are very passionate about credible and transparent election in Nigeria. It was one-time resident electoral commission of INEC in Cross River State. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Pendulum this afternoon, Barrister Mike Igini. It's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
All right, sir. I know that you're someone that is very passionate when it comes to the transparency of our election and electoral process in Nigeria. Mr. President signing that electoral bill into law recently, does that give you the confidence that our election that we had in 2023 is going to be better in 2027?
Well, thank you very much. As at this moment, I cannot sit here and speak about a credible election in 2027 against the background of some of the part of introduction you're giving or the drama that have taken place over how we could secure the sanctity of the will of the people expressed at the polling unit, given the proviso that have just been put into the law, which to me portend grave danger, first to the lives of those who are going to be at polling unit, because where voters are gathered and there is network, yet the presiding officer says that there's no network. The challenge is that presiding officer is going to have problem with angry voters. So that is my first fear. Number two, again, I'm happy that there could be collusion. People could sabotage the mobile network providers system in several places across the country. And so, with respect to how the next election outcome will look like, clearly, I cannot say.
Okay, prior to Mr. President signing this electoral bill into law, I did say earlier that we saw all kind of maneuvering on the floors of the both chambers of the National Assembly. And, you know, Nigerians and advocates of credible elections like you were asking for something very, very germane to the sustenance of our democracy, which is real-time transmission of election results. And while Mr. President was signing that bill into law, he did say that the strength of our broadband is not strong enough for us to start having real-time electronic transmission of results. As somebody who had served at INEC before now, are those excuses, are they tenable? Are they germane?
I can tell you here that those excuses are completely and wholly specious, totally untenable. That is why I've said that I feel so sad that I wasted 10 years of my life, 10 years of my that should have used for my legal practice in the service of the fatherland. And that after 10 years of hard work with my colleagues, starting from the time of Jega and all those that we worked since 2010, to give meaning and purpose to the ballots as the best means of the expression of the will of the people, here we are today. I can tell you here that before we left the commission, since 2011, INEC, where we worked, we have developed, innovated, and we came up with robust processes and procedure to address historical challenges of election service delivery in our country. All that we tried to do was to ensure that we remove the poetry of our election that have been framed in the rubric of pain, frustration, and litigations to a level that where once the people have expressed their will, it should be taken into account. And what did we do? I can tell you here that way back in 2012, we carried out the first pilot in Cross River State, where I worked as a commissioner in charge of that state. The Governor Leah Imoke's second term election, we did carry out e-transmission using laptops at that time. And in my office, I could see all the results.
Real time.
Now, yes, we have done that. Now, by 2018, I was again reappointed, 2017, I was again reappointed by President Muhammadu Buhari after my first tenure, having been appointed first by President Jonathan. We introduced the car reader. What we're trying to do was to implement fully the 4th track of the electronic voting that is now all over the world. One was we were able to successfully carry out a biometric compilation of voter register. Then the second stage was the use of a device electronically to do accreditation. Then the third track of the EB system would have been the use of electronic balloting. That is not what is being done now. But the last stage, which is the transmission, we are able to do that. And that was why when the debate on this same subject matter took place before the successful passage of the 2022 Act, Nigerians will recall that the debate, INEC as at that time was isolated. The telecommunication provider were also not invited. But as a commission, we had a duty to the Nigerian people, and we issued a statement, a comprehensive one, to the effect that INEC was ready for the e-transmission, given the fact that INEC set up, there was INEC NCC technical committee that was set up to do a survey of network coverage in Nigeria. And the report gave us a total of 93% coverage. And that by the time we were going to do the transmission by 2019, that the 7% remaining would have been covered. But as you all know, since 1999 to 2022, the 2019 election, there was no Electoral Act passed because forces who don't want, a transparent process stall the passage of the 2019, 2016, 2018 debate on this network changes that were about to effect. And that was why there was no distance. Now, the point that should be noted here is that when I issue a statement, widely reported, the telecommunications company in Nigeria, network provider, have also issued statement confirming what I said, what INEC said in 2018. So I can say here that with respect to this issue about e-transmission, the INEC, the election management body, is ready. The telecommunication network provider, they are ready. The Nigerian people are ready on account of the fact that when the bill for the 2020, the current one that is being debated or that has been signed now,
2026,
they went around the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the geopolitical zones during public hearing, and the Nigerian people in the entire 6 geopolitical zone, without exception, all endorsed direct transmission of polling unit results to the IREV. Now, may I say this here? Let me address the unnecessary fears that has occasioned this proviso that's now going to be a recipe for a challenge of our election. The fears of the people, the substantiated fear, was that if network fails, the presiding officer should just carry the Form EC8A and proceed to the work collation officer. Now, when we design the beavers, when we talk about beavers, people used to think that it is one big machine. It's like your telephone. When we designed the beavers, we anticipated that despite network coverage, there could be places where at some point there may be no network for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So the beavers were designed to operate online and offline. Okay. That fear that they are used to introduce the proviso have been taken into account with the beavers. So you don't even need that proviso. That was why, if you look at section 60, subsection 5 of the 2022 Electoral Act, it stated clearly that when voting at polling unit and result procedure had been completed, the presiding officer should transfer, that was the language used, the result of the accreditation, the scanned image, in a manner prescribed by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The question we should now ask ourselves, did INEC, when we're in office, prescribe the manner that it should be done? The answer is yes, and it is contained in paragraph 38 of INEC regulations and guidelines, made pursuant to the powers given to INEC under section 160 as well as section 148, that stated clearly that INEC, in order to realize the goals of the Electoral Act, has power to make regulations and guidelines to give effect to it. The problem we are now having today is because of what the tribunal have done, particularly the apex court of our country.
The Supreme
There
Court.
are 3 principal laws that govern election: the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and regulation and guidelines. The court now said that the requirement of transmission and transfer, which was used interchangeably, what we lawyers could say, mutatis mutendi, in the Electoral Act, that ought to have been written, that it was in the regulation, that it ought to have been written in the Electoral Act. And because it's not there, therefore, it is irrelevant. This is very shocking. This is what has brought that problem. It is in order to cure this that in the effort to amend the 2022 Electoral Act, that everybody now said, okay, you know what? Write what is now in the regulation and guideline, take it to the Electoral Act. This is where the whole debate started. And in any case, it is completely unnecessary to have the proviso, because the fear that has been entertained has been taken care of by the beavers, because it operates both offline and offline. What it requires is to do so.
Okay, from the narration that you gave us just now, apparently during your own time, you had foresaw what members of National Assembly raised now, and those flaws that they identified were already taken care of. Like you rightly said, beavers can work
Absolutely.
online and offline. But
Offline.
except if I'm wrong, please tell me, these particular step taken by the members of the National Assembly and of course the assent of Mr. President making this to become a law, this for me is retrogressive to our democracy.
Absolutely. You see, look, the whole embrace of democracy is essentially because it brings about participation and accountability to the process of human development. In fact, the greatest promise of democracy is because it gives the people the opportunity on a periodic basis to make a choice. And peaceful transfer of power is very key. And so, what has been put in place is a recipe for chaos. In that, presiding officers are going to be put in danger, because the whole idea of the IREV was to prevent what used to happen before. When election results have been announced at the polling unit, compromise ad hoc staff on their way to the work collation center, results are either changed on their way, or when they get to the work collation center, security men are used to prevent party agents, some party agents, from entering, accessing the point of collation. At that point, they will change it. It was against that background that we, the commission, decided that, you know what? Once the view of the Nigerian people have been expressed at the polling unit, transmit it to the IREV. The IREV is open to all Nigerians. The moment the result is on the IREV, it becomes a deterrence for a presiding officer to change the result, because before the presiding officer gets to the work collation officer, unlike in time past, where the work collation officer will be waiting to see the presiding officer without knowing what had happened, the work collation officer would have seen, because he had a code to assess the portal to see what has taken place in each of the polling unit, because an average of 12 polling units constitutes a ward. Therefore, with IREV now acting like VAR, our IREG is like a VAR. It is an aid. We now enjoin presiding officer to say that the work collation officer, as contained in section 64, subsection 4 of the 2022 Electoral Act, that work collation officer, I am now a work collation officer. A presiding officer has come before me. Before coming, I have seen all the results. I have been checking them, all right, what has been posted there. But I will only confirm that once he brings the form EC8A, he brings it, before I do collation or the first polling unit, every of that, I will have to look at the IREN to confirm whether the total number of accredited voters is consistent with what has been given to me before I will start the collation process. If it is consistent with that, of course, the results in the IREV will prevail. But where you say that where there's a network
failure, I
can say there will be no network, because you see, generally, administratively, as we have known over the years, from the history of mankind, discretionary powers are susceptible to abuse. And I give you one or two instances. When we came on board, in order to deal with some of the election rigging provisions in the Act, particularly Section 49, where the section says that any Nigerian voter who wants to go vote, when he gets to the polling unit, if the presiding officer is satisfied that his name is on the register, he should issue him or her a ballot paper. The question now is, how do we know what satisfies a presiding officer? What is the objective criteria to determine that? As at that time, they were manual. Politicians now has people's permanent, not permanent, but voters card. All right? So as a presiding officer, anybody can come before me. and I'll begin to issue ballot paper. It
For
was
them to
against
vote.
that background that the car reader was introduced to identify a true voter, all right, to confirm before you can issue a ballot paper. That was what that was designed to achieve. And successfully, we have achieved that. And that was why you no longer hear about, in so we used to have what you call tender ballot. We eliminated tender ballot. Now, the example I'm trying to give with respect to this abuse of discretionary power was that we now found that there are some Nigerians who have, through accident, they have lost their fingers. The commission now have an application in the corridor to ensure that those who have lost their fingers could actually vote by using incident form. Or if, for example, on the day you have come before a presiding officer, we can see you, the anchor, as we can see your picture on the corridor. We could see your name on the register of voter. But what we were unable to do was to confirm your biometric. It was now decided that under that situation, issue such a potential voter an incident form. You know what happened? Incident form became the order of the day. They abandoned car reader and they went for incident form. Particularly with respect to those who don't have fingers, we find that in some community, whole community, suddenly lost their fingers. Incident form became the order of the day. This proviso is akin to the incident form phenomenon that's led to sabotage of the electoral process. This is my worry, that this particular proviso is completely unnecessary, because in the design of the PVAS, that was taken into account. But I'm happy, even though the report, the statement by the telco should have come much earlier when the debate was on, because they have said that, look, they had the whole coverage. I am also very delighted that my MBA, Nigerian Bar Association, and in particular, Nigerian Society of Engineers, they've issued a very early statement on this same subject matter, that network coverage is not a problem. In fact, it's an indictment of the network operators in Nigeria, because the whole world is watching, to say that since the year 2000, when they have been operating, that in Nigeria, they don't have network coverage. That's why they have also come out to say that there's network coverage. What has happened now, fellow Nigerians, is that the Nigerian people are ready, the election management people ready, the mobile telecommunication people ready, but the political elite is not ready.
Okay, in spite of all these glaring evidences, like you rightly mentioned, the one from NBA, Nigerian Society of Engineers, and the telcos, yet the National Assembly still went ahead and, of course, did what they did with the amendment of the electoral bill. What dangers are we likely to face as a nation with this new electoral law? And then what will become of the 2027 election in terms of transparency and, of course, free and fair conduct of the election?
Well, the first casualty of what has happened is erosion of public trusts. Erosion of public trusts. There's already now a nationwide distrust about the road to 2027 election. You see, and this is very concerning. Around the world, when some of us were invited, when we are usually invited to the US to observe election, the usual opening remarks when we are in Washington had only been, welcome to America. Welcome to the celebration of American democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, our elections are based on trusts. As you see tomorrow, it will like any other day. There will be no heavy security anywhere, because that's the day the American people will have to express their will. And it's not expected that a fellow citizen will prevent another. And institutions have been built in such a way that the will of people must be reflected. So what has happened here now, there's trust deficit at the moment. And when there's trust deficit and all that, every other thing that we are going to do will be, challenge. Number two, the I am a bit relieved that the telcos have come out to tell the world that they have the capacity to do in-transmission. All right? But my fear is that as we go to the election, the possibility of the telco system being sabotaged or even possible collusion. You recall in 2021 that an official of NCC was invited to the National Assembly who almost repudiated, disowned a report, a joint report of both INEC and itself because there's a body under the government. So these are my clear worries that we are going to this election with distrust, because the credibility of any election is a reflection of how people see the process, how the process is carried out is very key for people accepting the outcome of election. This is my worry.
All right. Still talking about the action of the National Assembly, does it give doubt to the quality and the reasoning of men and women that we have as lawmakers in the country?
Well, you see, the reason why some of us fought for democracy at a much younger age when we were in the university, and the reason why Nigerians fought in the course of fighting for democracy, a time when the journey of Nigeria and the prospect of democracy was less certain, was essentially because we didn't have a parliament. Because under military regime, we had executive, you had a judiciary. What was missing was the parliament. And that was why a parliament where the people must have a say, which was not possible under the military. So I am surprised that in a democratic system, where on a subject matter of public interests, a subject matter of national interests, that public hearing was conducted across the 6 geopolitical zones, where Nigerians spoke loudly and clearly what they want. And so it is shocking that those who are supposed to be representative suddenly changed that decision without recourse to the people. And so what has happened is that it's a case of the Nigerian people having representatives, but they have no representation. What is being done in the country.
That's sad for our democracy. Okay, now that Mr. President has signed, it is now binding on all Nigerians that we have a new electoral law 2026. So, but what can the people do as electorate now to protect their votes, to ensure that their vote counts come 2027?
They can only address a sector that I think can do so much to change the trajectory of our elections. And that is my constituency, the judiciary.
Okay.
The judiciary is supposed to be the last line of defense of democracy and the rule of law. And whenever in any democratic society where the judiciary shows sign of weakness, collapse, or irrelevance, the political elite will exploit it to their own advantage. We would not have been here today if the apex courts gave effect to the provisions of the 2022 Electoral Act. And may I add here that the Ninth Assembly did a great job, because all the election rigging provisions that we identified, even from the time of Leship Ganifawemi, it took about 20 years for us to be able to have those things repealed. Section 49,
by the Ninth Assembly?
Section 53, which is now Section 51, Section 68, which is now Section amended to Section 65, were all efforts that were put in place. Now, you see, democracy is anchored on the rule of law, because the rule of law is a graceful ornament to an ordered society. One arm of government that all must bow, whether you are a politician, individual, or institutions, remains the judiciary. But historically, our courts have never been on the side of electorate right from history. Remember what happened in 1979? Remember what happened in 1983 when our late sage, Awolowo, had to declare that, look, when he was asked if we go to the court, Awolowo said that he will not go to the court because the system is corrupted. And so that has remained the same. Remember what happened in June 12th? On June 12th, a judge sat down in the middle of a night, 9 p.m., to give a ruling stopping the June 12th election that threw Nigeria into chaos. Every effort to get that situation upturned was difficult. You remember that Babangida, on June 23rd, with an unsigned statement issued after the annulment, declared that they had to annul the election to save judiciary from its anarchy. In 2007, the 2007 election ought to have been annulled. But what happened? It was the judiciary that had to go and vote. This is very wrong. The vote of Nigerian people, the determination of which will rule in any democracy, should be determined finally and conclusively at the polling unit, not in the courtroom. I had thought that the National Assembly would have carried out what we have been asking for, one of which is that, which I would have considered as a great work of the current 10th Assembly, would have been that the resolution of election petition before people are sworn in, as what happened in 1979 and 1983. Because what now happens is that when people are sworn in, they use public money to fight petition. We have also thought that the onus of how election was conducted should be put on the election management body. Those are the proposals we have made, have been sent over time. They have rejected all of them, because if an EMB conduct election, INEC conduct election, and returns someone as a winner of election, and there's question, I'll be questioned by a petitioner, why should it be the man who was returned and the petitioner that should be made to explain how election was conducted? The onus of how well election was conducted must and should be on the EMB, because of certain provision of even the Evidence Act, Section 136, subsection 2, and particularly Section 140 of the Evidence Act, which says that in discharging the onus of proof of any assertion, that regard must be had by the court as to a party who has the special knowledge of such a matter. When election is conducted, who conducts election is the EMB. Who is the custodian of the material is the EMB. Who gives a certified copy of material is EMB. So why is it that when there's a dispute as to how a return was made, why is it that the onus is not placed on the EMB? That is what we've been asking for. Because if an EMB is to give account of how he conducted the election, it will be more accountable, it will be more responsible in ensuring a free, fair, and credible process. These are the reform areas we expected to happen. It didn't happen. And the last one was that, to tell you the reluctance, was that since 1999, we have been asking for the setting up of a Electoral Offenses Commission. How is it now? That's not done. Up to date, they have not set it up. We only took our effort when we were in Akwa Ibom State. The two professors that I sent to jail that were prosecuted was on account of our just effort as a commission. But where is the Electoral Offenses Commission? They are not ready. Right. Section 52, now repealed by President Jonathan.
Mr. Mike, we are really running out of time. We must thank you very much for your insightful discussion.
As a final word, all I just want to say that this country belongs to all of us. We have worked so hard to make it a better place because the broad outline of the 21st century is very clear. It offers opportunity for those who can work together, live together, and develop the society where there will be opportunity for all and responsibility from all.
All right. We must thank you very much, Barrister Mike Igini, former resident electoral commissioner, INEC Cross River State, for giving us your perspective on the new electoral law, which was signed by Mr. President. We thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll take another quick break on the program at this moment to bring you the soundbite of the week. We'll be right back.
If the people are clamoring for free and fair elections, I think that the processes and the things we are requesting for now, if we can do that now, that means you are giving us assurance that next election will be free and fair. But we want an electronic transmission of the results. That's what we want. And that is what I think that the government should listen to. It should listen to us so we can have a free and fair election.
I'm going to vote because I need a good thing to happen in Nigeria, you understand? So I'm almost 47. You understand? Now 47 should not be crying inside the countryside like a baby. You understand? I know he's trying. Let him try more. When they try more, I think one day Nigeria is going to be a mega superstar country.
The way things are going now, you don't even know. We're just praying that God should just help so that it will be a peaceful one. And people should not vote because of what they collect from in particular, because by the time they go to the post, they will do it their own way. But if you vote your conscience, then you know you are voting the right person to do.
All right, that's the Pendulum this week. We thank you very much for watching the program. The deed has been done, whether we like it or not. Mr. President had already signed that amended electoral bill into law, and that is what we are going to apply come 2027 general elections. All eyes will be on INEC now to do the needful so that we can have transparent, free, and fair elections come 2027. My name is Ajibola Ojeshola. Thanks for being part of the program. Bye for now.